next episode.
Hold up. Hey. Oh my be thinking we saw. We don't play. We gon' rock it till the wheels fall off. Hold up. Hey. Oh my be acting too bold. Take a seat. Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
Welcome. Those who are subscribing to our YouTube channel, the Brotherhood of Mental Health, I thank you for your subscriptions. Those who are just checking us out for the first time, please subscribe, because what we're trying to do with this platform, under the guidance of the Counseling Consulting Group of Georgia, and also the next episode, we're trying to provide avenues for mental health and ways to bring mental health back into the African American community, or any community that's socioeconomically deprived, or just doesn't really feel about getting involved in counseling. My name is Darrell Brooks. I am one of the managing partners of the Counseling Consulting Group of Georgia, and also one of the co-hosts of the new show that we call The Next Episode. However, I do have another type of title. Right now in Georgia, we have an association called the Licensed Professional Counseling Association, one of the largest in the nation. I am their president from 2016 to 2019. I have a 3-year term. Well, 2018 will be my last year. And from that year, 2018, the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019, I will be called immediate past president. So being the first African-American male president of an organization that existed for 30 years, that's probably a big picture, people say. However, my goal as president was always to get involved in the community, use our social media as a platform to generate more membership, as well as bring more minorities to the table to our board. Now, because of that, what we're going to do for the next episode is we're going to do a 3-part series on my presidency by showing different types of excerpts of motivational speaking or engagements that I have done. So the first part is going to be working with Clark Atlanta University. This year was a very important year for me. I have an opportunity to work with the students at Clark Atlanta and be a keynote speaker. Very first time. I was honored and floored. What you're going to see on this first episode is me talking about my history of how I got into the field of counseling and what it took for a certain teacher of mine, Dr. Kelly Kersey, who got me more involved in the aspect of being an agent of change and not just a person generating money in this profession. So stay tuned, check it out. March 15th, we are having our first annual March Madness Mental Health Meet and Greet. Now, if you check on our website at c2g2group.com, you will see the registration for that. That is March 15th. The time is from 12, which is noon, lunchtime, to 2 p.m. We're going to watch a couple of the sessions. We're going to get involved, networking, discuss some issues, and then do some interviews that we're also going to provide for our YouTube channel and also on the next episode. But stay tuned. Check out this one, okay? See you in a few. Peace.
He's from Cleveland originally. He's been doing this kind of work for over 20 years, working with African-American men's mental health, sports psychology. He's been doing a lot. But really working in black spaces to answer these questions like, how can we make it better for people who look like us? He is our president for the Licensed Professional Counselor Association of Georgia. So the counseling, our state agency, our state accredited, not a body, professional association. That's what I'm looking for, our state professional association. So he's the president. So again, he asks these kind of questions, he's answering these kind of questions, and he's on the forefront for advocacy and actually recruiting and training more African-American mental health practitioners as well. Have this be one of our first dialogues, really, because we think here at Clark Atlanta University, what a unique space for us to really talk about mental health in African-American communities, our psychology department, our social department, our counseling department. We're going to be producing people who are going to ask questions like this and hopefully address questions like this. And so we're like, why not do that here in this time, in this space? So we want to present to you Mr. Darrell Brooks. There are not a lot of us who are African American. And this was just from SAMHSA 2012, and that's the most recent data that we could pull. 19.2% of all psychologists are African American. Psychiatrists. 5.1% psychologists. 17.5% of social workers, right? 10.3% of counselors. 7.8% marriage and family therapists. So we need you to go out and do this kind of work. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to let Mr. Brooks take over and guide our discussion, and we'll be here to help as needed.
Okay, thank you. Hey, please give him a hand for doing this, man. I really put it together. Let me start by talking about the percentages that he's talking about is true. It was shocking because when I first got into the counseling field, I'll see how I get out of this in the slideshow. When I first got into the counseling field, I was at a historically white school in Canton, Ohio, and when I was there, I was sometimes the only black or the only black male in the classroom. And they used to talk about, because I was born and raised in Canton, I moved to Cleveland, so they talked about my neck of the woods or my hood as a third world country. And they didn't ever, when I talked to them, they would say, you know, I went to this junior high school and they just look like savages. I said, well, that's my high school I went to. And they were shocked, like, did I really go there? Yeah, I went to that high school, that junior high school, I went to that high school. Yeah, this is where I'm from. So they never understood. So while I was in school for counseling, I decided to do a program called How to Counsel the Black Family. We did this program on February during Black History Month. The same thing that Ken is doing here. We brought in clinicians that were African American clinicians. We brought them into the school. We had a little symposium. And what happened was, the first time I did this, I made over $20,000 on the first try. So I'm like, I'm getting paid. So I did it again. We did it the following year. Hurricane Katrina hit. And so this time we said we're going to donate money down to the schools and for Hurricane Katrina, all the schools that were counselors. That year we broke even, but I was still getting kind of successful at doing what we did for trying to bring in more awareness to to the African American community. The problem was that my teacher, Dr. Kersey, who I wrote this letter to, saw my potential, but I wasn't thinking about my potential. I was thinking about the money I'm about to make doing these symposiums. So I was still a student providing the services. And I'm gonna read to you what I gave to her today before I came here, because I was in deep thought and prayer about how would I address the students here about being in this field that I love now. That at the time when I first got in and when I was in the chairs like you guys, I came straight from law school. I transferred from law school, came into counseling because I said there's a lot of black lawyers, not enough black therapists. So I'm still thinking money-wise. You know, I'm thinking how I'm gonna get paid by being a black therapist. I can relate, because a lot of us are what? There's more black men going to prison, more black men getting picked up, for a lot of black kids getting on ADHD, getting diagnosed. You know, they're getting the Adderall, Ritalin. All of that stuff was happening during the time that I was coming in, and I'm so glad to see y'all's faces, because there was none of y'all where I was at. Okay, I was just that one. And so I said to her, this is what I said. As I processed this letter, I began to think back on my days as your student at Malone College. It was then you woke me up in learning to handle my education rather than making money. You expressed to all of us that being a clinician is not just a way to generate income, but to appreciate the opportunity to be an agent of change. I remember that when I came to you pertaining to racial undertones at Malone, you expressed to me you didn't care. You were there to educate. I listened. When we began to do How to Counsel the Black Family, you encouraged and empowered me. Even when you supervised me and saw my vulnerable side and logged my tears with compassion and empathy, I listened and processed that episode. When I graduated, you shared your tears of accomplishments, and finally, this young man has crossed over. You celebrated with my family and me. Throughout those years, those undertones that I learned was being professional. Today, this letter is to express to you that because of you being that minority educator at Malone College, touched my life, so now I'm giving back to my supervisees, and now I have an opportunity to speak to the other young men and women of minorities that sit in the seats where I sat, where I met you. I thank you. I thank all teachers that are here giving us this opportunity, because just like he said, we don't have enough of us out there to be that change agent, because what we do as clinicians is an agent of change. We're the next version of the freedom riders of the 60s and the 70s, because when you talk to a young woman or you talk to a young boy and you look at the pain that they go through, you can empathize as well as sympathize because you yourself has been through that same type of pain. You also are able to share with them how you can overcome and become that successful person that you want them to be as you are, because you're here, you're learning, and you're doing what you want to do. Now, how many thought about becoming a therapist that first go around when they wanted to go to school? Raise your hand. That's good. Me, I wanted to be an agent. That's all I wanted to be. I wanted to go to law school, be an agent. Since I couldn't make it to the NBA myself, I'm gonna go ahead and be with somebody I can, you know? And so that changed it. Now, 3 questions come up. I'm just gonna take that down. She wrote back, this is her rep, but this is what she said. After a long day, what a blessing to receive your letter, a true paycheck of the heart. I had tears in my eyes reading your words. God allowed me to be in the right place to see you, pure potential emotion. You will open the eyes of many of those who dedicate in the field. And I'm so proud of you. Go light a fire up under the next generation. Give a huge hug to your amazing family and send pictures when you can. She loves my 15-month-old son, so I tell her that. Now, 3 things, the key questions that come up. I was reading a couple articles from the New York Times. I know y'all have been taught to go through what we call true parenthetical articles, which is your journals and your what else y'all supposed to have, how y'all look up articles when y'all write your papers, what else y'all supposed to do? Scholarly articles, right? Okay, what do they? Say them again? Peer reviews, what else? Come on, man, y'all, come on, it's gonna talk to me. This ain't all lecture now. I mean, this I get down. Let's go. If I have to take my jacket off, don't let me do that, because I am hot and sweaty, but I'm gonna try to go through this. So peer reviews, journals, what else? So we gotta get all that stuff together. Okay, but here's something from a New York Times article. The need for therapy. A good man is hard to find. She came up with three questions out of this. And the 3 questions were, who is there to provide them with guidance and support that they need? That's 1. Question 2, whom do they see that looks like them? That's number 2. And number 3, who can potentially serve as their role model? All right? Well, you know me, when a kid goes through school, he has a bad behavior, they always say the behavior problem. First of all, he sees what? His teacher. Does the teacher normally look like him? Okay. So then they say, well, you gotta go see a school psychologist to be diagnosed. So the school psychologist does that. Does the school psychologist look like him? Then he gets a probation officer. Something happens, we gotta go, he gets on probation. Does the probation officer look like him? Sometimes. But as you can see through this transition, this guy has not, or this person has not been able to see someone that looked like us. Or they haven't. And so the goal is to make sure I try to get you to that point where you begin to think about this job or this career and make it more of a calling, more of a passion than what it should be. Because a lot of times, a lot of people say there's no money in counseling. They say it, and you have to hustle when you're out here, because I'm working 2 jobs as it is right now. But it's still the passion that I have for it. Supervision, I do supervision for people. I only charge $45. Everybody else can charge up to $100-something. I only charge $45. Why? Because Dr. Kersey trained me that it's the passion and it's not the money. I'll be blessed some other way because we're a blessing to others. So we're going to get blessed another way. So I always live by that rule. Now, there's some people out there, you want to tear somebody's mouth out, you can. If they got the money, definitely get them. But the ones who don't, who are less fortunate or having trouble, you extend that hand of courtesy and support, and it works out pretty good. All right, so that was 1. So then they said, why don't men want jobs done by mostly women? Remember, this was a female-dominated profession. Like I said, when I got in it, I was either the only black or the only black male. And so when I see a lot of brothers that's going through the counseling program or have done that stuff, I applaud that. I think, Dr. Ken, you had on LinkedIn, you had where you showed some pictures of some of the guys in your program that you had.
In the counseling education program, we had 15 African American males.
See, to me, that
count the likes, but I did get over 1,000 likes on LinkedIn.
Well, yeah, and that's good. Now, when I first came here, it was 2010. Guess who left Cleveland when I left Cleveland? That's right. If y'all know that, LeBron left, okay? His plane went on closer to Miami. Mine stopped here in Atlanta, okay? So I got here in Atlanta, and when I started counseling here, I noticed a difference than in Ohio. Our laws are a lot more stricter, and for us to be able to do private practice, we had to do an extra 1,000 hours and take the National Mental Health Counseling exam, so we become a licensed clinical counselor. All right. When they said down here, you can start your own practice down here with the LPCA. I was like, bet. Let me ride on down here, put my shingle up, start my own private practice. But then I said, well, let me find out how to get a job first. So I'm looking through the phone book, Yellow Page, and I see pages and pages and pages of businesses saying counseling, counseling, counseling. And I was like, well, let me call a couple, see what it's about. And they're all private practice. So there's no, you get a couple agencies. I work for a hospital. I got on with a job where I did community-based counseling, where you got to drive all over the world. That happens. And so my first job, I drove from Alpharetta to Ellijay to see one kid. All right. That's how many hours of drive? So I'm not used to driving long hours. I'm gonna be honest. When I thought I had to go see a kid downtown, and I'm in Alpharetta, and I said, we're going to downtown. I said, okay, what time is the court hearing? It's about 9 o'clock. Okay, I'll leave about 8:30, 8 o'clock. I should make it on time. Y'all know that traffic 400 was backed up. I didn't get there till 11:45, and that judge was looking at me, Mr. Brooks, where you been? I said, I don't know, man. I was just riding down this road, and I just seen a lot of cars just stopping on the way, So it gets to you, man. But let me get back to what I was talking about when it comes to these things. In dealing with professionalism and coming into understanding what we go through here, when I got here, I joined Licensed Professional Counsel Association of Georgia in 2011. At that time, there was Dr. Holt. She was an African-American female president, and then we had one before that, Miss Andre. So I'm the first African-American male president they had in 30 years. Okay, 30 years, first one. But at the time, I joined them just so I can get myself familiar with the culture, understand everybody, learn from the board part of the business side, and then I also began to try to understand how to relate to those outside of my spectrum, my scope of practice. So when I did that, I became CE chair. So that's the first thing you do. I was CE chair. So anybody who wants to continue education, they had to come through me. I had to go through that. I talked to them, motivated them, got them focused. Now, for me to become president, it all started back when we had to do the right to diagnose. Because at beginning, back in 2008, we could only do what we call diagnostic impressions as LPCs. LCSWs, our cousins, can diagnose before we could. We helped them out in 2010, and we helped out licensed marriage and family therapists in 2012. So when it was our turn to diagnose, they said, no, we don't want y'all to diagnose, we got this. And I was like, well, why is that? Well, if you think about it, licensed professional counselors right now are up to 8,000 strong in the state of Georgia. Licensed marriage family therapists are probably about 1,000, 1,500. Licensed clinical social workers are about 4,000. So, if the licensed clinical social workers and licensed marriage and family therapists are able to diagnose, they get the bigger jobs, which are the clinical director jobs. So now, if you're looking at 4,000 that are saturated right here in greater Atlanta, metro Atlanta, 4,000 licensed professional counselors with the right to diagnose, that means the competition for those jobs is getting real tight now. So we have to keep that, just understanding that when it comes to these jobs or careers, a lot of times it's going to be how you differentiate yourself from everybody else. Whether you do CBT, whether you do play therapy, whether you do EDMR, any type of treatment modality or any type of therapeutic practice that you want to try, you got to learn how to differentiate yourself. And so when I thought about all this, and I said, well, okay, what can I do now in the board? And so I helped out with a board. It was a fraternity brother of mine. Who's all members of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated? Raise your hand. That's what I'm doing. Find new brothers. Okay, that's all. I'll leave it alone. With this one. But anyway, okay. So we had to go to the Capitol, and we had to find somebody to champion our bill. So it happened to be that the CEO and myself, along with the lobbyists, was looking around in the Capitol to find one of our senators or House of Representatives, state representatives, to champion our bill so we get the right to diagnose. If it wasn't for our fraternity, we would have never got a chance to get this thing diagnosed, and it would never pass. Do you see how all these things, as being African American, being part of a fraternal organization or sorority, being part of something, has helped to move something even bigger than we would thought, because we needed that right to diagnose in order to become professional. Okay? So what I'm saying is that everything that you're doing now while you're in school, just remember, there is helping to weave, mold you, shape you into becoming something bigger for this profession, for your career, and for the community, and for Wakanda. Okay, since y'all, I saw Panther. How many of y'all saw Black Panther? I better see every hand up for that thing, boy. Even if you ain't a Marvel guy, watch Black Panther. Now, that's the end of my spiel. If you have any questions, we can go. I'm opening up the floor for questions, but I just wanted to give you that information. I want to thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to talk to y'all, because I am so proud to be here. I'm so happy to be on Clark's campus. Not just the fact that it's Clark the Panthers, but it's just the fact that I haven't been on this campus. I've been to Payne, Haight Morehouse. Don't say that. You know, when I went to Payne, I did sneak on Spelman's campus for now and then. That's when I was my single life, so don't worry about this. You know, okay, I'll leave that alone. Things happen, but you know, or they didn't. Either way. So, but anyway, any questions? Come.
So, Mr. Brooks, I have some questions.
Yeah.
So, our next part, like, since you've been here in Georgia, in many black spaces, what have you seen as the the mental health challenges in African American spaces or communities within Georgia? Or what are you seeing as the president of LPCA, GA, and your practice?
I think the one thing is that we're not seeing the political side of the counseling field or profession, because there's none of us on boards, there's none of us getting involved in the community that way. Now, we get involved in the community through helping out with Hosea Feed the Hungry. We do working with Must Ministries and stuff like that. We get involved, but then it's not being advertised or it's not being displayed correctly. You know, a lot of times when you get on YouTube back in the days, either World Star, whatever it's called, you want to see somebody get knocked out or something like that. But I think we need to be more proactive in using these social media platforms on what we do on the campuses and what we do in the community. So that's one of the things to look at. And another one is just telling everybody that mental health is okay. Because as you know, a lot of times if you come from the parents that I come from, they're like, why don't you get a real job? I mean, well, it is a real job, Dad. You know, no, it ain't a real job. Okay, all right. You know, but he realizes now, because when somebody in our family went through some stuff and I gave them some information on how to get that taken care of, it got taken care of, and he was amazed that I knew that, you know. But to him, this is not, at first it wasn't a real job. So that stigma that we got to worry about, the misconceptions, especially when we talk about eating disorders. I didn't know anything about eating disorders in the African American community until I met with a guy named Carlos Houston that's on my YouTube channel, and I talked to him about it. And they said there's men who have eating disorders. Think about it. I didn't know that. You know, when a guy's worried about his weight, or he want to make sure he's still buff, or he's taking diuretics to keep himself in shape, it's a possible eating disorder. You know, didn't know that. You know, because I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. And I was like, man, if I'm trying to lose 20 pounds and I'm doing all this stuff, I might have an eating disorder, you know. But what it is, I just got to stop going to McDonald's and Burger King getting them 2 for $6, you know, mix 2 for $6, you know. If I stop that, I'll be okay, but, you know, and then exercise. So those are the things. In the African American community, that's what I look at. I think more of we're not really doing some awareness about it. Now they're talking about mental health, as you know, because Trump, y'all's president. Not my